What's going on, everybody? Welcome to today's training. So, listen, what I want to focus on today is protecting yourself and your ATM. Okay. And the main reason why I wanted to focus on this topic today was just simply because there's a lot of misinformation out there in terms of, how often you might get robbed and the best ways to prevent getting robbed, et cetera, et cetera. And obviously, I've been in the ATM industry for 2 decades now. So I know a thing or two when it comes to the ATM business and the way that it operates, the way that it works, a lot of statistics and things of that nature. And so what I wanted to do today was just really dive into specifically three particular points that I think are very important. So we're going to talk about protecting yourself at your ATM, whether you're a man or a woman. And we're also going to talk about protecting your ATM from cyber attacks, right? And then we're going to finish things off by talking about protecting the money inside of your ATM. And you can protect your ATM as well, but the main thing that we want to do is make sure that the money that we have inside of our ATM is secure and that we can recoup it if it's lost, right? So first and foremost, let's dive into protecting yourself as a man or a woman. Now, here's the thing. When it comes to protecting yourself as a man or a woman in the ATM industry, there's a very, very big misconception that women are going to be more targeted than men, which is not true. And I understand that if we look at gender roles in the United States of America over the past 100, 200 years, women are more susceptible to getting attacked and things of that nature. But we're in 2023, guys. We're about to be in 2024, right? And at the end of the day, there are some things that are still not equal, but in terms of the ATM industry, men and women are equal in the ATM industry, right? In fact, if you actually do some research on the matter, there are very few instances of a man or a woman being robbed at their own personal ATMs. Right. And I know that you guys are probably mind blown by that, especially you guys that like to, share those videos of ATMs going flying out of the windows and barbershops and things like that. But do your research on it. There's very, very few instances of people getting robbed at their own personal ATMs while they're loading ATMs. Where a lot of the attacks happen is at your bank's ATMs. So you're more likely to get robbed while, doing anything, putting money in or pulling money out when you're at your bank's ATM. And the reason for that is simply because there's no security, at your bank, outside of during the middle of the day and you're inside of the bank. There's no security there. It's out in the open. It's very, very likely that someone is watching that place because they know that these cars are coming in and out, in and out, in and out. And the other thing that you have to think about is why would anyone want to waste time trying to go after the money inside of the ATM at a barbershop, for example, when they could just go and rob someone at an ATM? Because if you rob someone at an ATM, they're more likely to pull out hundreds of dollars as opposed to being in the gas station or something like that, where you're only going to likely pull out $20. Now, I don't say that to say that gas stations and things of that nature, that they don't have to deal with robberies. Obviously, that's not what I'm saying. But see, the thing that we have to do in business and the thing that a lot of you guys struggle with is looking at things objectively as opposed to subjectively, right? So if we look at things objectively, we know that there are way less attacks and there really haven't even been any recorded attacks of men or women being robbed while they were filling their ATM, although it does happen like we've already discussed. Okay. But you're more likely to get robbed at your own personal bank. In fact, between every 1 in 1 million or 1 in 3.5 million transactions, there's a robbery that occurs. And these are all at traditional bank ATMs. Okay. So that's the first thing that I wanted to just kind of get out there for you guys. But the fact of the matter, though, is, and the really important piece here is, how would you protect yourself if you were loading your machine on your own and maybe you do feel like something's going on, right? Because that's what's really important here. And so what you would want to do, there's a couple of different things that you can do. Now, obviously, everyone, depending on what state you're in, you're not necessarily going to be allowed to carry into a store. But I mean, the reality of it is who's going to know that you were, if you can, or if you're able to carry, that's a great thing for you to do. If you're able to open carry, that's another great thing that you can try. But you also have to keep in mind that that could scare off the customers at the location that you're working in, right? So what you might want to do is just have a concealed carry permit and just, carry whatever you need to in order to just feel safer about the situation. Now, the other thing that I would want you guys to do is just try to stagger your actual loading schedule. You don't want to necessarily say, hey, every Wednesday at 2 p.m. I'm going to show up and refill the machine, unless you're carrying and you feel confident in what's going on. Because see, the reality of it is people aren't so much interested in robbing the people that are filling up the ATMs. They really just want to get their hands on the money, because I mean, if they get caught robbing the person and taking the money, that's a much higher charge than them just taking the ATM, which is the reason why you have such a low amount, if any, of people legitimately getting robbed and really beat up and hurt at their own personal ATMs, as opposed to, or versus, bank ATM robberies, right? But you want to do these two things. You want to stagger your schedule, and you want to have a concealed carry permit or an open carry permit, whatever the case may be, depending on where you live at, depending on your state. Now, the other thing that I recommend is that you get a separate cassette. So for those of you who don't know, is a cassette is essentially the little box, sound like a little black box, and it carries and holds and houses all of the money that your ATM is going to distribute to your customers. Okay, and so if you have a separate cassette, what you could do is, while you're in the car, you fill your cassette up with money. Maybe put the cassette in your book bag or your purse or whatever the case may be. You walk into the business, you unlock it, do what you got to do, and you do a very simple swap. You pull out the empty cassette, you put in the new one, you lock it up, make sure that everything is good, working in good condition, and then the next thing that you're going to do is you just walk out. Really, really simple. Because see, the thing is, what a lot of people think is that it takes a lot of time to refill a machine, and it really doesn't. The only thing that you're doing is you're unlocking it, you're opening up the cassette box, you're putting the cash in it, putting everything back together, locking it back up, and then just making sure that the denominations that are inside of the cassette match what you have on your screen. It doesn't take that long. It takes maybe a minute or less to do it once you get really good at it. Now, you're cutting that time in half when you have an additional cassette, because the majority of ATMs nowadays have removable cassettes, so you can buy a separate cassette and then just swap them out. And that is the three best ways that I would say that you can protect yourself when it comes to your ATM business. Now, obviously, the one big overarching thing that you want to do to protect yourself is to not place your your ATM in a location where there's a trap house next door, or there's drug dealers all over the place. Like, obviously, you're asking for trouble if you were to do something like that. But let's just say you have a traditional location. It's a gas station. It's in a nice residential area. It's on the main road. Like, you don't have to worry so much about getting robbed or getting shot or any of the things that people come up with in their minds when it comes to this type of business, right? Because the one thing that I'll say is, when we start to look at things subjectively instead of objectively, you're not going to do anything. You're going to just stay where you're at. You're going to continue to work your 9 to 5. You're not going to be able to make any passive income from this particular business, because again, you're creating these stories, and there's so many people that create these fake stories, and then they post them online, and then you guys read those stories, and then you guys get scared, and then it just goes on and on and on. And it's really just the power of social media. So you want to arm yourself with knowledge, and you also want to do your research. You don't want to just take anyone's word for it. You don't even want to take necessarily my word for it if you are new and you're not familiar with who I am and what I do. But if you do some research, you'll see that the majority of attacks are going to come from your bank branch ATMs, not your personal ATMs that you are loading, okay? Now, moving on to part 2 of this, we're going to talk about protecting your ATM from cyber attacks. And this is something that no one really asked me about anymore. Back in 2018, everyone and their grandmother used to ask me about this. Everyone and their grandmother. And nowadays, no one says anything about it because it's not as prevalent as it was back in the day. It's not as prevalent as it was back in the day. I honestly haven't heard too many stories of ATMs getting hacked or anything like that. But essentially, what happens is, where you put your card in so that your card can get read and that it can get access to your bank account and all that good stuff. What used to happen, I should say, is you would put your card in, and what people would do is they would put something called a skimmer. Okay, it's called a skimmer, and you would put a skimmer inside of the card loading compartment. And basically, what that skimmer would do is, there's two versions of it. One of them is it would make like a carbon copy of your actual card, and the person or the scammer, they could come and get that scammer out of there, and then they would have an exact replica of all your information on your card. So I mean, from your 3-digit PIN to your name and all of that good stuff. So the only thing that they wouldn't have would be your PIN number. And they could still make transactions. As you guys know, you can do a lot of transactions without PIN numbers these days, because you have the card number and you have the 3 digits on the back. All right. And then the other version of that, or the alternate route that some of these scammers take, is they'll put like a little chip or something in there. It's like kind of like a scanner. And what that scanner would do is it will basically do the exact same thing. It's going to read all the information on your card, and you're going to be in a situation where you're going to see, well, damn, where do all these charges come from? Because what these guys are doing is they're creating these fake cards, or they're called blank cards. And so what a blank card is basically these people taking the coding from these credit cards, credit card information that they're stealing, and they're coding this information to actual blank credit cards. So you can go on eBay, Amazon, all that, and buy blank credit cards, and you can create your own credit cards using the numbers that you stole, right? And it's a fantastic, it was a fantastic scam when it came out because no one knew that it was happening. But now the government has gotten involved and we've had regulations put in place so that all of the new 2023 ATMs, and really even way back in 2000 and I'll say 17, the government put things in place to make it so that your ATM, as long as you have a newer ATM, by law, there has to be protection on that ATM from cyber attacks, from skimmers. Okay. This is the reason why I tell you guys, don't just go buying an old ATM from someone, because that ATM could be subjected to skimmer attacks or cyber attacks. And you being the owner, you could be found liable for the damages that that person has to deal with when it comes to their money being stolen from them, especially if it's over $1,000, right? And the reason why you would be liable is mostly because you were not in compliance. Because if you were in compliance, then your machine would have been up to date. It would have had all the bells and whistles that was necessary for a successful ATM business, and you wouldn't be in a situation where people's money was getting stolen from them through these blank cards. Okay, so protecting your ATM from cyber attacks is actually probably the easiest thing that you can do out of the list of things that I'm going to be talking about. And the reason that I say that is because all you had to do was just get a brand new ATM, get a 2023 ATM, and you're good to go. You're solid, right? So let's move on to our final piece that we're going to talk about today, and that's going to be protecting the money inside of your ATM. Now, you mentioned, or you guys heard me mention that we want to focus more so on protecting the money inside of the ATM and not so much the outside of the ATM, so the actual ATM itself. And I'm just talking in terms of priority. So obviously you want to always protect your ATM as well, because again, your ATM is an investment asset and it's a cash flowing asset that's making you money. So you obviously want to protect it. But first and foremost, always and forever, when it comes to insuring your machine, what you want to be making sure that you do is you insure the money inside of the ATM. That's very important, right? So yes, you can put yourself in a situation where you only protect the ATM, but if someone steals the ATM and the money is inside, well, they're not going to replace the money inside. You see, when you go and you start to look into insurance for your ATMs, you're either going to protect the ATM, the money inside, or both. And this can range from 500 a year, or it could be more, it could be less. It really just depends on what your coverage is, what your state is, the type of ATM, how much money you want to insure, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I will say that you do not need to have ATM insurance. And again, this is one of those things where people do not want to look at this objectively. They want to look at it subjectively. But if you look at it objectively, you don't have to have insurance for your car technically, right? You don't have to. But if you get into a car accident, well, you're going to wish that you had car insurance, right? And it's really the same thing. You don't have to have ATM insurance for your ATM business. And people don't want to hear that. They want to hear that you have to have it. But the reality of it is it's an optional asset that you can add to your portfolio of ATMs. You don't have to have insurance. But again, if something happened to your ATM, you're going to wish that you did have it. So what you really want to do is you want to look at your resources, your financial resources. Hey, do I have the finances to protect my ATM, the money inside, or both? If the answer is yes, then go for it. Definitely go and get insurance. But if you do not have the resources to do it, that does not mean that you should not start the ATM business or that you shouldn't place your machines, et cetera, because the reality of it is ATMs are still, in terms of them getting stolen, is still relatively rare considering all of the ATMs that are in operation alone in the United States. And just from us at ATMU, we're shipping out, almost 100 machines a month in some cases to various parts of the United States, okay? And so we're contributing to the increase in ATM usage and ATM distribution throughout the entire United States. So that's the one thing that I really want you guys to think about is, do I have the financial resources to get ATM insurance? And if I do I really want to? Because for me personally, and I've managed over 50 ATM portfolios at one time, I've only ever put insurance on maybe a handful of locations, and those are typically going to be those locations where there's a particular type of clientele that comes into that infrastructure that I just don't trust. You know what I mean? So a lot of times you really want to play it by ear and look at where exactly are you at? Where's your location at? What kind of people frequent this location? Because that will really give you the insight that you need to know as to whether or not you want to protect your ATM, the money inside, or both. You want to make sure that you're making the right decision based on data that you have, not only emotions that are incurred when you read articles online and things of that nature, which is, again, the detriment of the entrepreneur is your emotions. All right. So what I want to do is I want to give you just one company that I would suggest that you guys go and check out in terms of finding insurance, and it's called Marshall Sterling. So Google Marshall Sterling. Once you go to their homepage, go to their search box, and it's in the top right-hand corner, and what you're going to do is you're going to type in ATM, okay? Just type in ATM. And then when you type in ATM, it's going to show you their ATM insurance quotes, and you can book a call with them, kind of compare rates, things of that nature. I highly, highly recommend that you compare rates with other companies. You can go into Google and type in ATM insurance for my ATM business, and there's a couple of different companies that are going to come up. So just like car insurance, house insurance, whatever the case may be, you want to make sure that you're putting yourself in this situation where you have a lot of different quotes from different companies, and that you can make the best decision for yourself, your family, and for your business overall. Okay, so I hope that this video was insightful for you guys who have kind of been worried about maybe getting into the ATM business because you're kind of worried about safety, or maybe you're already a part of the business and you were just kind of wondering what it would look like to really protect yourself and your business in today's climate. So hopefully this answered a lot of your questions. And guys, listen, if you are on the fence and you are kind of intrigued and you want to learn how to do the ATM business on your own, and maybe you just want a helping hand and you want someone to help you find the locations and install the machines for you, program them for you, teach you how to use the ATMs. If that sounds like you, then what I want you to do is to comment down below. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have someone from my team reach out, and we're going to collect a little bit of information from you, make sure that you're a good fit, make sure that you're not crazy, right? And as soon as we verify all that stuff and everything makes sense, you're good and we're good, then we can, hop on the call and we can talk about what it will look like for you to be a part of our ATM automation program. Some of our clients right now are doing over 700 transactions per month. Some of them are doing 100 transactions per month. Some of them are doing 80 to 90 transactions per month, and the list goes on. So we have helped dozens and dozens of people all across the United States, and actually over 500 people at this point, over 1,000 people since 2018 when I created ATMU. So if you want to be a part of the team, you want to be a part of the winning side of things in the ATM industry, just comment down below and I'll have someone reach out to you. But other than that, guys, I appreciate your time and I look forward to speaking with you guys in next week's video.